All right. This is Dominic Persicino with the Conscious Queries podcast. I'm here with my very special guest, Gilles Lessard. So here we are for the first time. This is your first time here on the podcast.
First time on the show, yeah.
Absolutely. So this is your ever first podcast. I'm very glad
ever
to
first
say
podcast.
that you're my first guest, or this is your first podcast.
Yeah.
So, a few things on the agenda actually. Tell us a little bit about yourself, just a little bit of background, just so people know a little bit about you.
Sure, yeah. So, yeah, like you said, I guess my name is Gilles Lessard. I grew up in St. Boniface in Winnipeg, French Canadian Métis, and then, just recently graduated from mechanical engineering, University of Manitoba, and now hopefully go on a few trips, but we'll see what happens with that, with the current world situation, but which we won't talk about. But, yeah. That's a bit about myself.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I guess one of the first things, we'll go right into the traveling. You were saying you wanted to do a few trips, but things are changing right now with trips. Prices are actually getting better, but restrictions are getting harder. So
sure,
it's interesting. Is this a few months, a few years? But what's the circumstances?
Yeah, so basically last summer I started planning this trip, and for a while through my degree, I wanted to celebrate my degree and go somewhere, and I figured I'd like to go to Europe for a little bit, and so along with that, I figured I'm getting more and more environmentally conscious, so I decided, it'd be fun to be able to replace one of my plane flights with something a bit more greener. And I remember a couple years ago, there was about 4 years ago actually, there was a series where they took a few French Canadians and they put them on a boat and kind of recreated the first arrival of French-speaking, I guess, Europeans to Canada on this boat trip. And the boat they were on, called the Picton Castle, is a sail training vessel. So basically what they do is that, people can pay to go on this boat and learn how to sail. And I figured, that'd be kind of cool, make an adventure out of it, spend maybe a month crossing the Atlantic. If I can find a ship, either go on to Europe or coming back at the same time, around the time I'd like to go there. And then I found a ship, and then so about last August I've booked my place on the ship, and the ship is supposed to leave the 11th of April. However, as we know right now, shit's kind of hitting the fan pretty hard, and we'll see if that's still happening. So that might be pushed back a little bit further. But the idea is to fly down to Bermuda, join the crew of a tall ship, of a sailing craft, take a month to sail across the Atlantic, get to Europe, and then spend 3 months backpacking throughout Europe and doing some farming in Belgium. So that was the plan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a really incredible plan, especially, going to Bermuda and then going all the way across the Atlantic by boat. How big is this boat?
Yeah, so the boat is about 100 feet long.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. It's not the biggest boat, but it can fit about 20 people maximum. I think around 6 or 8 of those people are professional crewmen, and they teach us basically how you don't need any experience. So they'll teach you hands-on how to do whatever you want to do. Well, how to properly sail the ship together as a team, right? So the ship I'm sailing with, hopefully we'll be sailing with, is called the Blue Clipper, and with Maybe Sailing, and that's the company that's in charge of that ship. And it's quite something. I really hope I get to go on this on the sailing ship. We'll see.
Well, isn't it better to be on a boat for, and be, how long does it take to get across the Atlantic?
So it'd take 34 days. So leaving from Bermuda to get to, it'd be 24 days from Bermuda to the Azores, which is a chain of islands. I think a chain of islands off the coast of Portugal. Then 10 days from the Azores to Portugal. So yeah, I guess in terms of safety, like the government of Canada has issued a travel warning to try to avoid all cruise ship travel.
Yeah.
And I think the idea is that on a cruise ship, you got 5,000 people, and if someone has the virus, it's a very closed space. Anybody could get it.
But if you're only like 15 people, and then you're on a boat for 2 weeks, then if you do have it, even it's a 2-week quarantine by itself on the boat.
Yeah, so, you're right. I think, I don't know much about biology and these viruses, right? But I think definitely maybe your chance of transmittal is a lot is reduced because you're only 28 people on the ship.
Yeah.
But the risk is still the same, or if you contract it. I know for myself, 23 years old, I'm a pretty healthy individual.
Yeah.
I should be fine, but anybody else on the ship, if one person has it on the ship, everybody's going to have it because it's not a big ship, right?
Exactly.
And then if someone has
that becomes a problem.
Then it becomes a problem, absolutely. Yeah. And especially since, it's a very active thing to try to sail this thing. It could get dangerous pretty quickly. Yeah.
What do you do on a sail ship when the wind's going against you?
That's a good question. So I guess contrary to some, popular opinion, maybe, I don't know, sailboats can sail into the wind. They can't sail directly into the wind, but they can sail at an angle into the wind. Okay. And depending on the types of sail you have on your ship, dictates at what angle you can sail into the wind, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So you can never sail directly into the wind because obviously the wind is pushing you directly.
But if you get the Rolls Royce of boats, you can get like this nice maneuver where you can go into it.
Yeah, you could say, let's say, I'm not exactly what the degree is, but I think something like 45 degrees into the wind is very doable. Some boats, depending on the shape of their sail, can sail even closer into that wind. So even a steeper angle going into the direction of the wind. So,
wow. Yeah.
And then I guess the trip we'll be doing is it's called Follow the Trade Winds, is what they're marketing it as, and basically what it is it's following these big wind currents that happen in the Atlantic Ocean, where they call the trade winds, and there's these big circles kind of wind that follow very much the same path. So it's really easy to sail from, let's say, the Americas to Europe, a bit north of the equator, because you have these two big rolling things. Yeah. So it's very common in the age of sail. There was the trade route was.
That's where the boats would go.
Yeah, the boats
they would just follow.
Yeah, they would just follow the winds
currents,
because the winds were pretty constant, and they were pretty trusted, so you could just follow those winds, those main prevailing winds, and that would the winds themselves would dictate the trade routes because you need to follow where the wind is. You can't necessarily go too much against the wind, right? So yeah, that's the goal. That's the plan.
Have you ever been? Is this your first time going?
Yeah. So I'm a guy from the prairies. Like I said, grew up in St. Boniface, Winnipeg, Manitoba. I've seen a lot of prairies. I've seen an ocean. Never really been on an ocean.
Doesn't it terrify you a little bit?
Actually, I'm a lot more excited than terrified. I think I'm at a point in my life where I really want to just live an adventure, and it sounds like an adventure, and I'm just ready to go full steam into it. I know everybody's warning me about the Bermuda Triangle, and every time I tell them, we'll be taking a plane to Bermuda and then leave from there. It's like, oh, wait, Bermuda? You sure you want to leave from Bermuda? Like, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
It's actually cheaper because of all the superstition. It's like the 13th floor. Give me the keys to the 13th floor. It's cheaper,
Yeah. But yeah, the Bermuda Triangle is west of of the Bermudan Islands. Yeah. So we're not going through the triangle, so we'll be fine. But yeah, it's funny. Everybody talks to me about seasickness. It's like, I've never really been on a boat on the ocean. Like, I've been in canoes a lot. Did a lot of canoeing, right? Yeah. And apparently, only 1 in 10 people don't get seasickness. So I'm hoping I'm part of the 10%.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'm not part of the.
Bring some gravel.
That's what people are saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it gets bad when you can't see the sea or the ocean. That's when it's really, but it's going to be counterintuitive, but lay down.
Oh yeah.
Lay down, because when me and Sux were going to Europe, we were really not feeling well. Like, it was really rough overnight, and it was a 7-hour boat ride, and we've been on there for 40 minutes, and we're like, oh shit. And it's midnight, we're getting there around 6 a.m. and definitely like lay down.
Okay,
I took a shower because I had to, and we kind of had this cabin because it was worth getting the cabin with the beds and whatever. That was bad. That did not feel good. I felt sick. Like, after that, the humidity did not. But laying down, I didn't feel like I wanted to lay down. I laid down, and right away, and Sal was telling me, like, lay down. Like, it's gonna feel good. I laid down, and I was like instantly better.
Nice.
Fell asleep, and you wake up to whatever.
Okay, cool. That's good to know.
It's definitely something that helped me. I don't know if
Right.
I don't feel like I would have wanted to eat anything, but again, I also didn't feel like I would want to lay down, right? Like
Gotcha,
it's kind of like when you're drunk, you got the spins, you're like, oh fuck, like, you know, like, oh, like,
it definitely is like the spins, because
you know,
I remember like for like, you know, on the cruise from Vancouver into Vancouver Island, for like the first like 45 minutes you're fine, and then after that you're like, oh shit, yeah,
40 minutes, 45 minutes,
yeah, man, you're like, oh.
It's like
and
edibles.
Yeah, man, it's pretty funny actually. I was like, wow, that's an interesting feeling, but I mean, it passed for me a little pretty quickly, you know. So,
well, I was talking to the company, and most people, they say is that for like these big trips like this, you know, like multiple weeks, usually if you get seasickness, it'll happen for a couple of days, and then you get over it.
Exactly.
Because your body gets used to it.
It's kind of like altitude sickness too.
Right. Yeah.
It takes like a day, maybe 2 days. And
gotcha. And then,
you know, that's why when I went to South America, we were, you know, it took us like 2 weeks when we got there, but then we like spent like 3-4 days before and after just to like debrief at the beginning to get ready at the altitude, because it's so different than right here. You know, here we're
for
like 200 above sea level.
Yeah,
although you're like
not too high.
3,000 or 4,000 above sea level. So it's extremely different.
For sure. Yeah.
So, and I mean, on the ocean, it's going to be very different for you, especially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, is that your only trip right now? Is that the only thing you got going on right now? Is that...
Yeah, that's the only big trip I've got planned right now.
So, where in Europe are you going?
Yeah, so the initial plan, and again, this is very much... could change. It's probably going to change.
Yeah.
Is we're going to go to... Or I'm in Portugal, and then from Portugal, my parents are going to fly out for a couple of weeks and visit Spain.
Nice.
But again, Spain just locked down all their borders, so probably not Spain. And then we were gonna.
We'll see.
We'll see.
It's in a month.
Well, so I was thinking about that, right? So.
Yeah, probably not. All right. In a month is
well,
nothing.
yeah, well.
We'll hope the fear mongering tones down a little bit.
Well, yeah, we were thinking about like, okay, we're leaving in a month, and it'll also take a month for us to get there. Like, it's not a plane, right? We're not there in 14 hours. Like, we're there in 34 days, plus or minus days, depending on the winds, right?
So that's 2 months. You got lots of time.
Yeah.
I know. Me and Nick, we were hoping to go to a music festival this summer.
Oh, yeah.
We were like, well, who knows if it's still going on?
Well, yeah, in Quebec. And that's the thing. Like, a lot of artists that are playing there, they're on a tour, because it's a pretty big festival. So they just get whoever's, you know, touring and all that, which is great. It's huge acts. But Rage Against the Machine hopped on the bill, and they haven't canceled that show yet. They've only canceled from May to June-ish or whatever the hell it is. And so they... You know, the Winnipeg show is canceled, so people like Joe, Serge, Max, all that, they're in distress, right? But it's like, you know,
they should join us in Quebec.
They should, because it's $110.
So what festival is it? Is this in Montreal or?
It's in Quebec City.
Quebec City,
it's Festival d'été Québec.
Nice.
And it's
Plaine d'Abraham.
Yeah, Plaine d'Abraham and the surrounding parks. Everything's walking distance. There's 4 stages. 3 or 4 parks with. One of them is one big 100,000 person stage, and then the other ones have like 2 stages or whatever.
Cool.
The parks. And so huge headliners like Jack Johnson, Alanis Morissette, classic, and a lot of new artists and people we're into, and Rage Against the Machine hopped on the bill, and people I'm not into, but huge artists like 5 Seconds of Summer, Imagine Dragons, all this kind of wild, you know, nonsense.
How many days is the festival?
11 days.
Oh,
$110.
Nice. Wow.
So it's $10 a day. And the concept is one ticket for one length of the festival. That's it. You buy the $110 and you go for however much you want wherever.
That's awesome. And I guess it's not necessarily it's not like a folk fest where there's camping, right? Like you're staying in Quebec City.
Exactly. Yeah. And you walk, everything is within walking distance, and you know they serve alcohol everywhere and whatever your thing, and so yeah.
Really
so
cool.
It's pretty cool. So they haven't canceled that yet. That's from July 9th to 19th.
Okay, nice.
Is the full dates, and I think they're playing the 18th. So if this whole thing doesn't leak into the entire summer, you know, and everything's getting pushed over a few months or whatever. Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Or / not happening if it's seasonal, right? Which is most things in the summer. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens. But
for sure,
it's definitely like the one.
What's the name of this festival?
Festival d'été Québec.
I love it.
Very patriotic.
It's
Quebec. Festival d'été Québec.
Yeah, FEQ.ca.
FEQ.ca. Okay, yeah.
That's
Fec.
Fec.
Fec.com.
Fec.ca. fec.ca.
Summer
Ça.
in Quebec City is a good time.
It is.
Honestly, summer
It's
in
really
Quebec is a good time.
Quebec
It's
is
like you're in Europe basically.
Like, honestly, they got so many good things going for them.
yeah.
Like in Case de Tremblay.
Yeah.
Like at 12 of Tremblay, it's like what, $12?
Like yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like c'est la province des
markets
miracles.
are
C'est la
nice.
province des miracles.
Yeah.
Comme 2 litres de mull dry.
Yeah.
2 liters of mull
Yeah.
dry.
The
10.9%.
liquor's cheap, the
$5.99.
food's
Yeah.
ripe.
Pack of smokes $6. You know.
Yeah, honestly.
The full Monty. You know.
They
Maybe
got
that's
it.
why
And
the
the
ticket is
prosperity.
$110. You know?
Maybe, yeah.
But that's really
Because
cool.
they know if it
I
was
think it's really cool.
$115, no one in Quebec would buy it.
Yeah.
Classic.
Like, because we're all, think about it, French Canadians were all so cheap.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
It would be
it's
like
back-
saying
the
to
pinnacle of
Yeah.
Kenya, like, you know, like-
we're all started. The cheapness where it all started.
It'd be like saying to somebody in St. B, oh, I'm 20 minutes away. Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh,
dude.
that's a little too far.
Yeah.
So common, man. Like Lex talking about that. Like,
A
it's
20-minute drive is too much for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, if it's not in Saint Boniface, Saint Vital, Saint Norbert, that's a little far.
If I can't
Saint
walk
Agathe,
there,
you're going to see some grandparents. Like that's
that's the
like you're packing for the weekend. Like, you
yeah.
gotta-
Oh yeah. It's like some people, go to
There goes to
Mexico.
show
You
you
go to
how-
Saint Agathe.
Yeah.
you know?
How garbage our transit is. You can't even use the transit.
no, yeah.
Okay. Well, that was really entertaining. You've been sipping on some mead.
Yeah, I have.
I think we should talk a bit about some mead and winemaking.
Sure, yeah.
I've been making mead. I've heard you've made some wine in the past.
I have, yeah.
So, I mean, what are your thoughts on this mead? And tell me a bit more about your winemaking.
Sure, yeah. So I guess the mead I'm drinking right now is the elderflower and juniper of this is a 2018. 2018. Ooh, that's a good year.
Shit.
That's a good year.
There's a whole
It's
year
good
between
vintage,
it.
yeah.
Damn.
It's got some age. Yeah, honestly, this meat is really good. It's got a really cool flavor. It's tart. Maybe is the word. It's dry, not tart. I don't. Is that? To be honest, I don't know.
There's some lemon in there. So.
Yeah, I don't know my taste too well. Like I don't know how to.
Your palate.
Yeah, well, no, I understand. Like I can taste, but I mean, like I don't know. I can't associate the word to the taste necessarily. But it's really good. It's really fantastic. We had the cherry before this, and the cherry was very nice as well. Yeah, like it's a really good flavor. It's very light, which is really nice about this stuff. Yeah,
And strong.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we need
absolutely.
a chaser for it.
Yeah. Like yeah.
Chasing your meat.
Imagine that. Yeah, that'd be pretty weak.
But yeah, I've made mead once before in my life. So basically, what happens like when I was in high school, my brother and my cousin, they started making beer from kits.
Yeah.
And I was helping them making beer from kits for a long time, and like kit beer is great because I think it ends up being 60 cents a beer. Like it's really cheap beer. It's not the best tasting beer, but like it's really good. For just summer if you want to drink some beer.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so then they were doing that, and then brother moved out, and he left all the beer making supplies at home. So from there, I started making some. I made beer from scratch one year, and that turned out pretty good. From scratch. So
Okay.
yeah, so
Yeah.
buying the malt and then
Yeah.
buying some hops. And I was trying to make a clone of, I don't know if you're familiar with the tripel called Duvel.
Hell yes.
Yeah, Duvel.
We actually just cleared those out of the liquor mart.
Did you?
Yeah,
eh?
most of the tripels we only carry 1 or 2 left. Even like stuff like Golden Drac, like those heavier Belgian
Really?
beers. Yeah, it was one clearance. They all went together. So I have a feeling it was kind of like one decision where I was like, hey, these just aren't going. We got to get rid of this. entire
That's
bunch.
too bad.
Yeah, and still to this day we have trouble filling that spot on the shelf because it was such a big area.
Right.
So
yeah.
even with our,
Yeah, because I remember
so-
even the LC in St. Boniface, there was like a very much dedicated section to Belgian beers.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a lot of the tripels, a lot of the strong beers. Like,
That's what I was always recommended when I was
Yeah.
asking about like good
so good.
good beers that are not like bud.
for sure.
And,
Yeah.
That are like artisan and taste like that
Yeah.
aren't too like bitter, aren't too like
Yeah, and that's what's nice.
sweet either.
For sure. The
So,
Belgian
yeah.
beers, like they're
They're
really good. Like personally, I'm not a big fan of hops. Like
Yeah.
I do like hops, but I'm not a fan of like those double IPAs. Like for me,
It is extremely
Yeah.
bitter.
Hey, very bitter. Yeah. Like to me, it's just a bit too bitter. And what's fun about the Belgian beer is that they're very strong beers, but they don't necessarily like they have a strong taste to them, but they don't taste. I don't know. I guess they just don't taste that strong, but they have a wonderful flavor. Like their flavor is different. It's so different to like what we're used to, like classic like Budweiser and like just like. You know, and like Anheuser-Busch beer, like any Anheuser.
Anything,
anything
they own
because they own all those light beers.
Bud Light, but Bud is their company. And the thing is, with those ones, it's all about that yeast, man. It's nice and spicy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of them, like if you get lambics, I don't know if you've tried those. There's like wild fermentation.
Those sour beers you're talking about,
right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Lambics are kind of the first iteration of sour beers, and you've got these on. You know, you see the yeast kind of fermenting on this big. Kind of like this ginormous pool table, the size of a conference room, you know, and it's within this huge room, and they got the yeast laid out on there, and it ferments wildly at its own pace, and it does its own thing. You kind of observe it, and you're like, all right, okay, let's do this, you know.
For sure, yeah.
And it's really cool how they do it. There's a lot of a personal touch. It's like, you know, people talk about those old wines, Burgundy wines from like the 40s, 50s, the same kind of thing. There's a touch to it, and it's been around for hundreds of years or a couple hundred years.
For
at
sure,
least,
yeah.
Whatever. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's sort of thing really cool. Like one Christmas, I got a comic book about craft, just about beer, the comic book of beer, like the history of beer, and it was really cool. Like learning all that stuff. Where like, you know, these people who first started making beer, right, didn't necessarily understand how yeast worked, right? But then throughout the generations, they just made the beer the same way for a long time.
That's how they made bread too.
Yeah, that's how they made bread too, right? So then all of a sudden
they made it from beer yeast.
For sure, yeah. All of a sudden you had this yeast where it tastes a certain way and makes a certain beer, and they didn't know how it happened. They just knew that if they kept on using, you know, the same pot or whatever, or same thing, they would get that yeast. And now they've bred these yeasts to taste the way they taste and to make the beers like they can say. Like I was in Munich once, and we were beer tasting, and we tasted a yeast, and the guy was telling this yeast they call it banana yeast, not really, but quote unquote banana yeast, because you taste it, and you have like a little bit of taste of clove and banana after.
Wow.
It's really cool. And there's no banana or clove in the beer.
And that's the thing with the yeast is that, you know, there's so many different varieties, and it, you know, some of them date back centuries. You know, there are some that are cultured and they are preserved and they're kept for years and years. And that's how the big, you know, a lot of big producers of alcohol and bread as well, they're able to, you know, preserve those kind of recipes and preserve those kinds of, like, you know, or systems so that they can make it. It's really interesting how, you know, even back in the day, bread was you know, bread yeast was done that way, and there was actually seals on bread to prove the quality where it came from, you know.
For sure.
Because maybe some people would put, like, you know, sawdust, or they would put something in the bread instead of it being a pure loaf. Right, yeah. So they would have like government seals, just like you would have DOC on a bottle of wine, you know, a certification label, which is really interesting. For back in the day there was certain certifications for things like that, you know.
Yeah, like people cared a lot about their bread.
Especially back then. It was like, you know, your bread and your meat and your vegetables and fruit, you know, and that's like basically it.
Yeah, you know? And your beer and your
cheese.
And your cheese. You're right.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's really important, definitely.
For sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, you know, making the mead was, you know, I only started making mead because I worked at a vineyard or at a winery, and then or a wine store, and then basically I did a lot of the wine courses with them, so now I'm like certified with them. But, you know, that was for wine and spirits, and then I was like, okay, well, you know, I kind of want to do something else, and then I stumbled upon mead, you know, the first ancient, you know, alcoholic beverage before anything else.
For sure, yeah.
It started off with mead. And so I decided to start making mead, and it was really cheap. You know, it's really affordable to start off, maybe $100 to start. And, you know, once you start making it, it's really a fun hobby. It's really fun to do, you know. And then you're like, okay, well, I start making one batch, and then you're like, okay, well, what flavors can I use? And you're like,
sure,
wow. there's unlimited unless you're basically bound by your creativity at that point. So it was a lot of fun to see, you know, juniper, elderflower,
right?
Now your lime and blueberry, cherries. It goes on and on. So it's really fun. Now we're bottling like my 4th batch. We're about to start my fifth personal batch, and Nick is joining me with that. So
nice.
It's going really well. It's going to be really a lot of fun to keep to see where it goes. You know, I think mead is really good, and it's been undervalued lately because people drink too much beer, or there's no access to mead. People drink beer or wine or vodka. You know, there is no mead market really.
Yeah, there's not a lot of mead bottles at least the Liquor Mart.
There's barely
now,
any. There's like three or 4 kinds.
Well, now in the last couple months, like now we don't just have what was that?
Doctor.
Well,
something.
Shrugging Doctor, yeah, they have a couple different styles of mead, but one of them is like an apple cinnamon mead. They do have an Upsala mead where it's your style.
There's a couple of
they do now
meaderies in Winnipeg.
But now we got Prairie Boys, which is new. I think they're in Springfield. And they're doing stuff that they have blueberry mead, and they filter it very well. It's very clear. There's no sediment.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Shrugging Doctor, they do apple cinnamon mead, and they do the Upsala mead, which is more like what you're having now, like a bit stronger, drier, a little bit cloudy. And then we have this other really interesting one. It's from Half Pints.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's called the Honeywood, and it's barrel aged mead.
Oh, nice.
And it doesn't taste very woody, and it's dry, and it's 12.6%. It's really, really good. And it comes in like a beer bottle with a cap on it, and yeah, super, super good. That one's really well done. There's even Rigby Orchards is the first one I was thinking about.
Okay.
And so they've been doing stuff right outside of the city for years and years.
Nice.
And, they do like Hascat berry. They used to have a raspberry one, a couple different wines, and then their mead. But there's quite a few. Like now, if you go in that mead section, there's like 4 or 5 new tags.
Cool.
It's
nice.
It's coming out a lot more. Not too much with the flavored ones, but like I said, like Prairie Boys or Bees or whatever the heck it is, it's that they have like a few flavored ones,
gotcha,
including a blueberry, so it kind of strays away from the spice, Christmassy clove style.
So lots of infused things,
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun where you can get a lot of different flavors with it. So, I mean, we'll see how it turns up. We're just starting really. We got 3 gallons. Now I just got my first 5 gallon.
Cool.
Or is it 6 gallon? So, we're just starting off.
Yeah.
That thing is huge.
I think it is 6 gallon. So, I mean, we started off with 1, 2, 3, now 6.
Awesome.
We'll see how it goes.
For sure.
But to me, it's really interesting how we see, here in Winnipeg, it's, we can do it. It's completely legal. You can make your own alcohol. There's no nothing against. But if you go to the territories, or if you go to Alaska, if you go to a lot of places, or if you go on a lot of reserves in Canada, it's actually illegal.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It's completely illegal. You're not allowed to make your own alcohol,
Gotcha.
your own mead, your own alcohol at all. And there are reasons why they do it, and it is for like criminal reasons, and for if it's not done right, it can become lethal. It can become a poison.
Gotcha.
So you have to be careful. You have to be able, when you're doing it, everything has to be cleaned, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
Everything
Yeah,
has to
sanitize things. Yeah.
Classic precautions. But even then it can be iffy, and that's why we do certify complete industries and places, right? Food inspectors visit the places,
sure.
and then they make sure that everything's clean, everything's tip top. And I understand why we do that. That's definitely, it makes sense. But I mean, I make my mead for myself and for my friends.
For sure.
I don't sell it commercially.
No.
And I think that is the problem up north, is that not everybody makes their own. It's becoming a sale thing where somebody makes it and sells it like a black market, and that's where the problems becomes a problem. And that is definitely for rural communities and for the north, it is a problem for them. But it seems that for me it's a hobby, but for those communities it's becoming a problem, only because it's been deemed illegal to sell to family and friends, obviously, because you have to go through the government LCBO, or you have to go through MLCC, or what is it now? It's not MLCC anymore. MBLL.
Manitoba Liquor Lotteries.
Yeah.
There you go. I remember when they tried to bring in cannabis in there, they're trying to rope it all in.
Put a C in there.
Remember that? I remember when the provincial government was like, "Oh yeah, we should just add cannabis on the shelves of
never gonna happen.
the LC,"
and
we're like,
"It was never gonna happen."
They're like, "What?"
It was never gonna happen. No, it was never gonna happen.
Yeah, well, you never know. Those
but they
politicians
thought about it. They were like,
"Oh,
maybe we don't have to
hire new stores."
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we can just still make the money out of the same locations. But it wasn't. No.
Yeah, that's fair.
No.
I remember they were talking about that, and like, I find it interesting how they're saying like, "Oh, my grandma doesn't want to see pot on the shelves," or interesting things.
And in Ontario, for the first 6 months or to the first year, you have to buy it online. There was no.
Oh
stores.
yeah, there's no stores.
You have to buy it on, and it was $5 the delivery fee, no matter where, if you pick it up or nothing.
Gotcha.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
$5, like no matter how much you bought.
For sure, yeah.
I was like, okay.
Interesting.
So I mean, that's kind of like the market for it, and how the market, and then the government in Ontario, there was a lottery system, and then they got rid of the lottery system.
Okay, so lottery to sell kind of thing.
Lottery to sell, exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
So, but now there is no system. There's no lotteries. There's no system. They just said anyone with enough money to open a real estate store and to do it, they can do it.
Oh wow! As long as you can buy the license, kind of thing.
Exactly, but the thing is once it's to how are you gonna make any money if no one's buying from the from the regular market? Everybody's still buying from the black market.
Yeah.
It's really ironic that once you start legalizing it, then it's they sell it at the black market price, and then the black market price is able to go way down, because obviously it's not worth that much. It's a plant, obviously. Cannabis is a plant, so it doesn't cost you $10 a gram to grow, especially even if you're paying everybody fair wages and everything. It's like, it's a weed. We call it a weed because it grows in less than 30 days.
Right, yeah.
Why is it $10 a gram? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's why the government is still not tapping into the black market. It's still going on. And, until... that's the thing is, I think they've proven themselves that they can't handle legalization. So I think the best step would have been decriminalization, and that's probably what's the next step for psychedelics, I think, or plant drugs or plant medicines, is we want to decriminalize those and not legalize them, because we want to make it just available to the public and not criminalized. And plants are plants. They grow in nature. They're not manipulated or made in labs, so you can't really manipulate them, or you can't
but I mean, like,
fraud people out of cutting cocaine or something like that.
I feel that's fair, but I mean, like opium, right, comes from a plant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, to make heroin, you're like, I see what you mean. Like, a plant is a plant, and you can't necessarily, like, a plant won't necessarily
it should be the Vegetable Drug Act, where we say plants can't be criminalized. We can't criminalize people for owning or for using plants or for putting poppy seeds in their tea. I mean, hey man, if you want to do it, do what you want to do.
Yeah, because like, honestly,
do what you want to do.
You'll never stop someone from using drugs. Like,
exactly,
people like to use drugs.
You're only providing more to the black market and more towards that. The only way is to make it make it decriminalized, so that we don't have a black market where it's not a big drug cartel or a big criminal organizations. It's just we decriminalize people's lifestyle, where shamanism or psychedelic therapy, where it's a spiritual aspect. It's become a kind of a a religious sacrament for some people. So if it's that profound, or if it's that, amazing to people, who are we to tell them they're wrong, or who are we to tell them that they can't do that in the comfort of their own home, not breaking any laws?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I think in Portugal, a couple places in Portugal, they decriminalize a lot of
That's right, exactly.
hard drugs, and
everything is decriminalized over
yeah,
there.
it doesn't.
The world didn't end.
No, yeah, and like I guess a big misconception with drugs is a lot of people think that drugs are the problem, and they're not necessarily the root cause of a problem. They're the reaction to a problem, right? Because someone who turns, let's say, to heavy drug usage, they didn't turn to heavy drug usage at the start. Like, there's obviously big social problems that has caused them to abuse drugs.
Exactly.
And that's the big thing. Like, as soon as you make that decriminalized, there's a lot of stigma that gets removed from there, right? And all of a sudden, places where people were afraid, because when you have something like criminalized, like hard drugs, right?
Exactly.
People start using them in bad places and in bad ways because they're scared, and they can't necessarily have access to clean methods, right? As soon as you provide clean methods and like clean injection sites, all of a sudden the diseases drop down a lot, because there's a lot less negative stigma, and it's
clean,
not.
And that's something they've been doing in like Vancouver.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think maybe even Toronto a couple of years ago they did that, and they were told,
before dunk food.
You're right. Yeah, but some people were like, we're still gonna do this, which it got taken down. But
for sure,
good for them for still having that up, because the drug problems over there are huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're talking about Canada, so
yeah,
whatever. But I mean, biggest in Canada.
Yeah, and again, like the thing is,
nice to do.
I guess the problem isn't necessarily the drugs. The problem is the social problems that cause people to start using drugs, and then they get enticed into everything related with the black market, right? Because that's the big problem, right? Is that because you have to get these drugs on the black market, then you become exposed.
You have to pay for it.
Yeah, you become exposed to other.
You have to do everything else involved in the black market.
Yeah,
you get part of it.
Yeah, you get exposed to the negative effects of the black market, which again, the black market is a social problem in itself, right? Like, so
but exactly, that's the exact problem. Just exactly like the gay community, when you're persecuted for being who you are.
Yeah.
To say who you are is wrong, and we will criminalize you for believing what you believe. That is literally the problem we're facing right now. It's saying, I believe that psychedelics helps me and my soul, and it provides me healing for who I am. And then they say, well, no. And you're like, okay, well, why is that not valid? Because just like the gay community, they were saying it was a human right for them to be who they are.
Yeah.
And to be, it is a social problem where people do cocaine or do heroin or do hardcore drugs like that. But realistically, when you take psychedelics, or when you take ayahuasca or DMT or mushrooms, realistically, what they're telling you is that those drugs are killing you, and that it really brings you on the right path. So it's kind of the anti-drug, or the, if you take ayahuasca, it'll say, alcoholism is killing you. Your liver is being damaged. So it's like, well, if that's, that's kind of the healing tool instead of it being prescription medicine.
Yeah.
But obviously there's a lot of money to be made in prescription, and a lot of money to be made in pharmaceuticals. So, it is a huge dilemma, and it is a huge, and let's not forget that the psychedelic warfare, or the war on drugs, actually only begun with Nixon. Before Nixon, people could buy joints, people could smoke weed, people could do LSD, and there was no restrictions. It was being researched in universities and everything like that. And then it was only with Nixon and the actually racialization of drugs in America, where they made it so that they would put drugs in American ghettos to make them actually, economically run down and actually, cause problem and wreak havoc. It was actually becoming a problem, and it was actually being made by the Americans themselves.
Gotcha.
So it's an amazing system where, they've criminalized something that could be, counter to the entire pharmaceutical industry, which is a billions of dollar industry.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like the battle people are fighting with the, okay, so I kind of didn't want to talk about this, but I think it's a good time to actually talk about this. I went to my first ever psychedelic community or psychedelic society of Winnipeg meeting.
Okay.
This is a group that's been going on for about 6 months now, and they basically are the Psychedelic Society of Winnipeg, and
Okay.
they have a big disclaimer about how they're about education and not for the promotion of drugs, obviously, and all that for the legal purposes. But it is amazing that now we actually have a community and we have that ability to, come together and associate and, see the community and to see, how we can actually make an impact. And it was really a lot of fun. It was very satisfying to go to the first meeting I went to and to see everybody there and to know, there's people like me, or there's people around there that think the same, philosophies as me.
Gotcha.
And it was really a lot of fun because a lot of them are very interested in the aspects of lobbying the government for decriminalization.
Yeah.
And so that was very, very satisfying to know that a lot of other people are on board with that.
Yeah.
And, I don't think it should be something that we should hide or something that we should put under the rug or it's something that, especially nowadays with all the mental health, all the problems that people are facing with social anxiety, with all the social media, people need help. People need tools to help them cope with those things. And, smoking weed, maybe it's bad for your lungs. Maybe we can make CBD or THC pills that fixes that problem. They probably already exist. I remember talking to a nurse that was telling me about how THC pills already exist and they prescribe them.
They do,
and it's like, okay, well, in that case, then that fixes a lot of our problems, then if that's the case, and if they don't affect your liver, then what is the argument against it? Just like an Advil or, an ibuprofen or any kind of other medicine like that. More people die of, those kinds of like, Advil or blood thinners than psychedelics, which is ironic, That's the case where the government actually made it illegal for a long time to sue pharmaceutical industries for deaths.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
In America, at least, they made it illegal but it was also because of the scare of the vaccination, anti-vaxxers scare.
Okay.
And it was actually a big thing under the Reagan era where he had to make it actually illegal for people to sue the vaccination or pharmaceutical industries and the medical industries because there was too many anti-vaxxers prosecuting them, and it was becoming super expensive for the companies to go to court over and over and over. And they're like, okay, well, I mean, the government, they just gave enough evidence, and they said, all right, well, in that case, fine, okay, we'll just make it not allowed to dispute you. But it was like, okay, well, so no accountability, and then later on that transfers into that precedent, leads into the entire pharmaceutical industry and leads to everything else where it becomes a huge problem where you're like, obviously the sugar industry is going to have biased science that tells you that sugar's great and there's trans fats. And then the salt industry is going to tell you that the salt is great, and then everybody's going to point fingers at each other and say, that's the cancer, and we're good, right? Drink your Coca-Cola.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Just drink it.
Mm.
Drink that
Yeah.
syrup. Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, some people drink 3 cans a day and they don't ever get cancer. So I mean, it must be fine.
Yeah, for sure.
Because some people are able to tolerate it.
Yeah, it's a hasty generalization.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty good for now. That's the next thing. Let's talk about your family, Franco-Manitoban roots.
Sure.
Something I really like about the Franco-Manitoban roots is that there's a lot of music and cooking recipes, a lot of cultural aspects that go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about what your family was like, and if you have any cool stories you want to tell us?
Sure, yeah. So I guess like classic Franco-Manitoban kind of thing, like raised Roman Catholic kind of thing, and then big importance on like family gatherings and big families, right? Like my mom, although she comes from Notre-Dame-de-Laude, right? It's a village southwest from here, but an hour and a half. I guess they're more recent immigrants to Canada, so we're talking about end of 1800s, beginning 1900s.
Yeah.
So they have a different, I guess. It's a similar culture, but I guess a bit different angle on it. My dad, his side of the family has been more in, I guess, in Canada for a longer time.
Yeah.
So it's more like French Canadian and also like a Métis side to it too. Although we never really, guess, never really learned our Métis culture just because of, I guess, just the situation in Manitoba, and how Manitoba became a province wasn't on the best terms with Canada.
Yeah.
Like there's a big emphasis on family gatherings. Like I said, my mom, she's the only daughter of a family of 8 guys. So 8 brothers, right? So my dad's side, they're 5, and his dad, he had, I think, something like, they were 13 kids, something like that. These were just ridiculous big families, right? And because of that, you got these big Christmas gatherings and big Easter gatherings. And
did they live in the city, or were they farm people?
Yeah, so my mom,
farm families.
My mom, that was a farm family. They had a dairy farm for a long time.
Nice.
They actually just sold the contract a couple of years back. And my dad's side, his mom was from the city, but his dad was from the country, from Saint-Anne, a
Nice
village 45 minutes east of Winnipeg. So it's interesting. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like the French Manitoban culture is changing a little bit, right? Because you have like my dad's parents' generation, born beginning of the 1900s. They were still in Vatican I or II, so like a very repressive Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah. Where you had to hide the French books when the bishop would come and inspect the schools.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, the bishop didn't really care too much, right?
Or the minister of education.
Yeah, the minister of education.
Yeah.
But like in that time, like priests, they wanted to know like when you were having kids, right? Because they wanted kids.
They want to fill those benches.
They want to fill those benches, right? Yeah, and they want at least a priest and a couple nuns in there. So.
What is it? Your first or your second or your third?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's dedicated to the
something
church.
like that. One of them.
One of them
has to be
like,
a priest.
One of them's a soldier. One of them's a farmer, and one of them's a religious.
Yeah,
that was an old tradition.
Oh,
back
for sure.
Your first kid was to the family. The
something
second
like that, yeah.
to the solder, and the third was to the church.
Something like that. Some just
wouldn't that
ridiculous
suck
rule.
if you would it would be all dependent on which
for
how
sure.
you were born.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a regal system instead of a monarchy system, instead of being I wanna go in the military, or I wanna do this in my life. It's like no, you don't get to choose.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it must have been pretty rough.
No,
but yeah, like I find it interesting because like my parents, at least they're religious, but not too religious. And I feel like my generation, a lot of my friends, they were raised the same way, right? Roman Catholic, but a lot of like I feel like a lot of our generation, at least the people I talk to, are very agnostic, right? Like we were born Roman Catholic and now we've become agnostic just because I don't know, we have a different view on life. And I guess I don't know if that has to do with just the more is revealed to us and the more connected we are, the more we have different perspectives of different people and different cultures, and we realize, this one way that people have decided to live for a couple hundred years isn't necessarily the right way to live, right?
Yeah.
Because even that in itself has changed for a long time.
Well, I think that's what the internet did, or, the ability to teach yourself, to attain a lot of knowledge yourself. You're able to see through people's, it's like, if it works for you, good for you. But
for sure, yeah.
It's like, for me, after the books I've read, after the conversations I've had, it's definitely not for me, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I feel like this, like our culture, like the French Manitoban culture, I think we're getting away from the church a lot. At least this generation, and we're holding values in other things, right? And especially with the like recently, a lot of people are becoming a lot more proud to be Métis, which is new, right? And like me and my family, like we're slowly trying to learn that aspect of our culture that we never got the chance to learn because of I guess the political situations that were part of the end of the 1800s and beginning of 1900s, right? It was very difficult to be a Métis person, right? So it's a very interesting thing. Like
it is very murky issue where integration starts to become a thing in Manitoba for, European settlers and the Aboriginals, coming together.
Yeah, like I know for like personally for myself, like I have a lot of trouble because I'm Métis, and I've only lived very much my French Manitoban culture. Like I have a lot of trouble trying to just even say that I'm Métis because I was never exposed to that culture, even though like my Métis ancestors were very involved in the Métis community, like being part of the rebellion or carrying Riel's casket, right, after he died. Well,
it's not so long ago that people, there was graffiti on the cathedral saying, "No French, go home."
For like sure. Yeah, no, absolutely.
These are things that we have to remember, and it is, to me, it's extremely, when I see that, and where it's, francophones were oppressed in Manitoba and all that, and then you go to the Vancouver airport where everything's in English and in Cantonese,
right?
But not French and English, like the official languages, and you're like, that's kind of a bit of a slap in the face, isn't it? Well, because we worked really hard to get our French official status.
Yeah, right. But I guess like in Vancouver, it's a bit of a different story. Like,
it is.
There's the French community of Vancouver. It does exist, but like
it's actually there's more per capita francophones over there, but it's because there's
I don't think not in Vancouver
6 or 7 million.
I don't think in Vancouver they're a lot small. Like in BC they're a lot smaller.
Yeah,
but they are there. I'm not saying they're not there. They are there.
Yeah.
But I think I understand the Cantonese part just because the massive influx of Chinese immigrants. Yeah. While they were building the railroad is just insane, and it very much makes sense. Like I can understand that, but anyways, talking about recipes, let's
sure.
There's one thing that kind of pisses me off a little bit is that there's a French Canadian song called La Tourtière. And everybody celebrates la tourtière. And, like, I don't mean to shit on la tourtière. And, like, I love tourtière. Don't get me wrong. Like, Christmas time, Easter, any big family gathering, there's for sure tourtière. It's already been an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's been a little while.
Tourtière is great, though.
Tourtière is great. Yeah, right? Nick,
shit,
do you like tourtière?
I love tourtière. We were playing at Festival, and you couldn't get in any tents on certain nights because we played a couple nights, but on the Saturday it was like good fucking luck getting in anywhere
for sure.
And so you go in, you go into all these lines basically, and you're just seeing all your friends, talking to them or whatever, and then you can't actually get into any tents. You're like, you know what? Screw this. I want to go back to the artist tent for a bit before things kind of free up, and so you go there and they're serving fresh tourtière.
Nice.
Semi-fresh, but
for sure.
But when there's like free coffee and tourtière and whatever other food and your checks are there, you're happy.
No, absolutely.
But tourtière is always good,
Yeah, it's always good
because it's always somebody who makes it homemade somewhere. It's never like
that's
like
fair.
How many machine-made French Canadian tourtières that we have in St. Boniface are like machine-made, not many of them.
I don't think so. I don't think we have one.
That's true.
Yeah.
meat pie fact. Molly's meat pies. Is Molly's like? Do they hand make their shit? Yeah,
I think so. Like, I don't think they have a robot making tortillas. I don't think you can have a robot. If it's not
it's an art.
If it's not a grandma, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not tortilla.
It's not tortilla.
Yeah.
But the thing about tortilla that kind of pisses me off is that like again, I can't say this enough. I love tortilla, but like we put tortilla on this golden pedestal that to me doesn't make any sense because it's just a meat pie,
right? Because
like
it's
everybody
not the
has a
cuts
meat.
Of meat. Yeah.
No, I know, but like
No,
everybody
yeah.
has a meat pie. It's like it's not like it's not just French Canadians that decide to put meat in a pie.
Oh my God.
Like think about like you go to England, they got meat pies. You go to Scotland, they got meat pies.
Right.
You go to anywhere in the world.
Haggis.
Yeah. They got their haggis.
God.
But you go anywhere in the world and they have meat pies. Like, oh my God.
And everyone's like, "This is a traditional from our."
I know. And like I was donating blood one day and I was talking to this lady and she's like, "Oh, you're French Canadian, eh?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, what do you call it?" I love that. Oh, like that meat pie. I'm like, "Oh, tortilla." She's like, "Yeah, it's so good." I'm like, "Yeah, it's good, but it's like," and for some reason I wasn't in a good mood that day, and it's like, "Yeah, it's good, but it's just a meat pie." She's like, "Oh no, but it's slow cooked." It's wait, what? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? It's a meat pie.
Oh my God.
Like I don't know how you slice it.
Oh my God.
Like it's
trying
just
to justify it.
yeah, they're
to
just trying to
herself,
just
you know?
but she's just this anglophone trying to say like this is the best thing she ever had in her life.
It's well
like,
cultured. It's well cultured. Yeah.
Still. Anyways, what I'm trying to say here.
It's like when you're in Morocco, you want to have the snake soup and you want to be, you know.
But that makes sense. That makes sense. Like if it was snake soup in Morocco, that makes sense. 'Cause I don't think other people have snake soup. No, but like I'm just saying, if Morocco had snake soup and it was,
oh my God, they do.
they do. Okay, so let's say Morocco, their snake soup is like a very cultural thing.
Yeah.
It's not like everybody else in the world has snake soup. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we have tortilla, but everybody else in the world has a meat pie. Like,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah. Blowing the lid on tortillas and meat pies right here on the ConsciousSqueries podcast.
But okay, now this is what I'm trying to get to.
Oh my
Tortilla is very good, but I don't think we should idolize tortilla like we do. I think there's a better French Canadian meal that we should idolize even more, but we don't idolize enough.
Which is
Pea soup.
pea soup.
Right, but there's too many like that fucking habitat. Habitat. Is like,
Habitant?
habitant. No,
Habitant?
habitat is like the pea soup in a can.
Yeah, the pea soup. That like, to be honest, habitant is alright. Like if you have a can
Is there
habitant,
an N in it? I thought it was
it's
just habitat.
Habitant.
I didn't know there was an N at the end. I
Yeah.
thought it was just a
Habitant.
T. I haven't had it since I was about 13,
Really?
13
I
probably.
think I have a can at home right now. It's not too bad. Like
Classic.
it's not the greatest pea soup, but like I feel like I don't know. I can't think of any other pea
What
soup in a
about-
can. Honestly.
What about Bannock? Is Bannock Franco-Canadian or Métis?
Yeah, I'd say like that's the thing. Like I feel like a lot of because of the fur trade, right? There's a big cultural exchange between the Aboriginal and the Métis. Like
They jerky and Bannock.
yeah, like Pimlican, right? Like, there's this big cultural change. Like you had the French came in, right, and then at the beginning the first Métis were French voyageurs coming out west,
Working for like the Hudson's Bay Company.
yeah,
or
working
whatever.
for even before that with La Vérendrye exploring out west, and they were the fathers, and without mothers, which were the Aboriginal women, you didn't have the Métis people, right? And so there's a big cultural exchange between the French and the Aboriginals in that regard,
Yeah.
And Bannock, is a very Métis thing, but I feel it's also like a French Canadian thing because think about it, like it's unleavened bread, right?
Mhm.
It's easy to make, great for when you're traveling. Like whenever I go camping, I bring flour and fat and salt, and I make bannock over the fire because it's just so much fun.
Exactly.
But anyways, like I feel like pea soup we don't idolize enough. I feel like there should be songs sung about pea soup. We should like.
It saved lives.
Is that gonna be a thing now? Or are we writing songs about
I think we're gonna write a song about pea soup. But anyways, so this whole thing started when you asked me about maybe some recipes.
Yeah.
So I'm prepared to share my recipe for pea soup tonight.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
This is where it's going to. Yeah. So this is how I make pea soup. So you first you gotta start with a mirepoix, right? Which is a fancy French word for saying a soup base kind of thing. Maybe, I don't know. My friend who's a cook might be screaming at me right now for, anyways. Mirepoix. Basically, what you do is get a lot of butter, and put the butter in a pan. Heat that butter up, and then you're gonna throw in onions. A lot of onions. I'd say maybe 2 onions. You can't have enough onions. Fried onions and butter are good for you.
Yes.
There you go. Add some salt and some pepper in those onions. And you get those onions a little transparent. Then you throw in some celery and some carrots. And then you put your lid on there and you gotta make him sweat. Sweat like they can't sweat no more. You gotta make those vegetables sweat. And then
Vegetables gotta sweat.
Vegetables gotta sweat. That's your mirepoix. Sweat those vegetables. Once those vegetables sweat. Now the best pea soup is this. Now if you want to be vegetarian, don't add the next step for obvious reasons. Best pea soup, ham bone. Right? Oh, I like this. Ham bone, right? If you want to have a little bit more fun, deer bones. We got a lot of deer bones in our freezer right now. That's what we're going. That's what we're rocking right now.
Snuff cooking music.
The classic Jamie Oliver cooking
Just
music.
the like ukulele.
Yeah. Hi, we're gonna go.
Le ham bone?
Today's recipe is, anyways. So throw in the ham bone. Put in some water. You got good stock.
How's that?
That's good. You're doing good. We're not done yet.
Water.
So you add water. You add your bone, and then you're gonna get that going. You're making a broth right now, right? And then a very important part is bay leaves. Don't forget the bay leaves. Just throw in a handful of bay leaves. You can't go wrong with bay leaves. And then throw in some thyme. Fresh thyme the best, if not powdered thyme. Bit more salt and pepper. And you let that bone just go at it. I don't know, medium, high, whatever. Make a broth. For as long as you can. The longer you put it in, the more the meat's going to come off the bone and the better it's going to be. And you want to get that, la moelle. Bone marrow. Bone marrow is the word I'm looking for. You get the bone marrow coming out of your bone. And then, once that's done, pull out your bone. And then this is the important step. It's not pea soup without peas. Throw in a whole bunch of peas. Throw in some potatoes. Because why not? We like potatoes.
We
love potatoes. And then, you just stir it occasionally. And what's beautiful about pea soup, and that's why I feel like pea soup should be the... we should have a flag with pea soup on it. We should replace the maple leaf on the Canadian flag with pea soup, actually. A bowl of pea soup. Is that there's a magical step that happens where your hard peas are in this liquid broth, this beautiful juicy broth. And it doesn't taste the best, to be honest. Like whenever you try it, like the peas, they got a certain taste to them, and it's just like, I'm talking about split peas here. Split peas. Whole peas, haven't done many whole pea soups, but split peas. Throw it in, and then whenever you taste it, I guess the split peas are just hard, and it's got a certain weird taste to it. But there's a magic moment that happens, and this is just the way I make pea soup. People make them different. There's a magic moment that happens where once it's boiled enough, and it's cooked enough, the peas break down completely. And at this point, the consistency of the soup is such that your big wooden spoon that you're using to stir it with, if you put it in the middle of your pot, it stands upright. Like, we're talking about a thick soup here.
Whoa.
Talking about a thick soup.
It's like a squash soup.
Yeah, it's like a potage, It's like a...
Wow.
Yeah, it's like oats.
Yeah.
Like a thick oats, It's kind of like a stew. I call it soup. I still call it soup, even if it's chunky as hell. But anyways.
It means it's got a lot of good nutrients.
Good nutrients. Peas are so good for you. You could live off peas. I could live off pea soup. And then what happened? This magical transition point happens where all these peas just disintegrate and become pea soup, and all of a sudden it just tastes fantastic. Obviously, you adjust the levels of salt and pepper and your thyme, but there you go. That's it. Pea soup. It's really easy. It tastes great. Wow. It's really good for you. Yeah, I just thought I'd like to share that.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. The pea soup story. What's your opinion on poutine in that case? What
you know what? Okay, poutine. Oh my god! Don't get me started on poutine. The problem with poutine. Now, I have a very unpopular. I have a very unpopular opinion on poutine.
Oh no! Oh, no.
It's not that I don't like poutine. It's just that after 3 bites, I don't want to feel like someone dropped an anchor in my stomach. Like, it's just too heavy. Like, it's just too heavy. Like, I just can't.
Okay, so
Gilles, you in high school, you used to finish a foot-long sub.
yeah,
completely
that's right.
filled in about 5. What was the record? It was like 4 or 5 minutes?
Yeah,
Less than
that's
five
The
fair.
average was 7,
That's
but like
fair. That's fair. But like,
Here's the question. Here's the critical question. Curds or shredded cheese?
well, obviously
come on.
curds. Like,
Why-
it's
why
not even a
would you-
question.
Thank you.
question. What the
Thank
hell?
you very
Like-
much. The question has been settled for
Well, yeah.
history. Curds.
No,
Not
but-
shredded cheese.
like-
Is that like chili cheese fries in that case?
We will
If it's-
find you if you use shredded cheese on your pizza. just make sure you have that in mind. We will
yeah,
find you.
we will come
Can
and get
you
you.
not, please?
It'll be like Taken, but like we'll find you.
Call it cheese with gravy fries
Yeah.
with cheese in that case.
Yeah,
But
like,
a poutine is with curds.
yeah, it is with curds. And like, yeah,
Right.
it is with curds. It is curds. And don't get me wrong, like poutine is really good. Like you can't go wrong with fries and gravy and cheese curds. Don't get me wrong, it's really good. It's just very heavy. Like,
You got to be ready.
You
Yeah,
get
you gotta be ready.
The Costco.
you gotta start stretching your stomach a couple of weeks before
Oh,
you
yeah.
start you start eating one of those.
You go to Quebec. If we go into Quebec City, you get like a whole tin of it.
Yeah.
A whole tin. Oh,
But that's the thing, like if I eat a tin of poutine, I'm gonna be passed out. Like
yeah, that's the point. It's basically like your freaking your nighttime medicine is you eat that and you're.
Some people like to push their bodies to the limit by like doing crazy exercise. Like some people like to just load themselves up with some like poutine, like an Unibrew, like a 3 pistons,
Exactly.
9%
Exactly.
Tripel beer.
yeah.
Exactly.
Just
Oh,
load it
man.
up.
It's
There
the
you
way
go.
of the life. It's the way of life, man. I mean,
Yeah, that's hardcore. That's hardcore.
You coming to Quebec with us this summer?
oh my god. That was awesome. Well, there you go. That's that.
But like, to be honest, like if I was in Quebec City, right, and in front of me was a poutine shop and a shawarma shop, I would prefer to have a shawarma just
Okay.
because it's
Yeah.
just lighter.
It depends on
It's
the
just-
mood
it
and the day.
depends.
I feel
Yeah.
like any day of the week, it's just lighter and it's just
Shawarma is really good. I'm not gonna disappoint.
I don't want to drag
sad.
my body around for the rest of the day.
Shawarma is really nice.
It's
You know?
That's true. If you got some walking around to do, it's some
Yeah.
quick protein. You still got like everything in there.
Yeah, you got some
like,
vegetables.
veggies.
Shawarma for
Yeah,
lunch,
yeah.
poutine for dinner.
Oh, damn.
Whew.
And if you still got stuff to do after dinner, poutine is your drunk food.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
not,
like that place in Ottawa, the $5 poutine. You get it if
Exactly,
you're a
exactly.
student, and you just say
Yeah.
you're a student. They give you poutine
Yeah.
for $5.
like to be honest, like to soak up any like remains of alcohol in your stomach before going to bed. Poutine does a good job, you know.
Great job.
Yeah,
It's a good junk
It's
food.
really a mop. Poutine is a mop. Eating a poutine is like taking
it's
a
like-
mop down your throat. Like,
Yeah, man. But it's like a.
and then like churning around your stomach with the mop, and then
But it's a
taking it
super
out.
heavy mop. Like it
Oh,
it
yeah.
weighs it down.
it weighs it down.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
weighs
it
down.
was funny talking to you about the pea soup. It's like talking to Justin Cazdub about potato salad.
or
you know,
bread.
Oh,
or
potato
bread.
salad,
Him
eh?
and his potato salad, and it's like,
Yeah.
he's.
How does he do potato salad?
He has a whole.
He definitely
specific
puts like the
recipe.
mustard, like
the
he
mustard,
he
and
puts
there's
the,
like
the
bacon
Dijons.
in there.
sure, yeah, he goes full,
like that guy.
cayenne pepper. Yeah, he goes all out.
He is
you know?
taught by Manik.
Yeah,
so
he is.
Honestly,
Let's
Manik,
be real.
Wow,
He
yeah.
knows
you
what
know.
he's doing.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember learning him from once, and it was unbelievable. It
Yeah.
was,
Oh,
definitely-
absolutely.
I still remember it, and it's been probably like over 10 years.
Should be a
Wow.
food themed podcast with Justin.
That'd be good.
Oh my
Can
god!
I be
honestly,
Can I come as a guest as well for that night?
Absolutely.
Just-
we'll start a
Yeah.
whole new segment podcast where it's with
Oh my God.
Justin Cazdub
Cooking with
and
juice.
Cooking with juice. That'd be perfect. Honestly, we'll actually film in the kitchen. We should just start filming
There
in
you
the
go.
kitchen. We'll
Hey,
have
you have a
a
good
cooking
kitchen
show.
to film in.
We'll start a cooking show.
There you go.
Screw it. We'll do it. We'll do it.
We'll
I
do
mean,
it.
why not? Why
Well,
not?
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
We'll do it live. Exactly. Exactly. We'll do it live. We'll stream it.
Like Twitch stream it. Like
Exactly.
full on. Yeah.
We'll Twitch
Yeah.
stream it, and then we'll add it on to all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's been over an hour now, so I mean,
we should. Yeah.
Hour
I
and
feel
17
like-
minutes. Pretty good. Pretty
very
good.
good. I mean,
Very nice.
I'm really glad that how well this has gone. You know, it's been flowing really well.
Yeah, it was fun.
I
being
mean,
here.
so I'm really glad this how this one went on. So I thank Nick for doing the tech. I thank Gilles.
You're wrong guy, but that works. Yeah.
Gilles for being here. I'm terrible with names. You know that about me.
And thanks for having me, Dom.
Absolutely,
it was a good time,
man. It was amazing to hear your stories and hear your enlightening stories. I mean, it's so weird how we've known each other for a long time, but we never actually sat down and did something like this. So
For sure, yeah.
It worked out really well. So I'm really glad it did. So maybe in a few months we'll catch up again. See how your trip went.
Yeah, hopefully if I end up going.
Actually, I think the Conscious Queries audience would really like that.
I think so too. Bring back your journal entries of your trip.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody who's still here with us. If you want to check out more information, go to the consciousqueries.com website, and you can see a lot more about there. Like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. All right. I think that's it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Rock and roll.